Hey, what's going on everybody? This is Noble, and today I'm going to be sharing with you my Magical Musketeer deck profile. So, I've done this one in the past, but I kind of wanted to update it because it looks a lot different now. The Magical Musketeer archetype is really powerful in the fact that this deck allows your spells and even your traps to essentially all be hand traps and be played during either player's turn from your hand, and that is a really powerful form of disruption, not even adding to the fact that you can add like a dozen hand traps that are really powerful on top of all of this. This just becomes a really disruption oriented deck that can really stop your opponent left and right, because they're not only going to have to worry about what's on the field, but they're also going to have to worry about the 4 other cards you have in your hand that are literally all hand traps pretty much. But yeah guys, I really enjoy this deck and I want to share it with you guys, so let's get into it. Alright, so to start off with, I'm playing triple Caspar. So Caspar and Starfire were both expensive cards, but they got reprints in Dual Overload, I believe it was, so you can get them ultra rare now for super cheap, which is awesome because Caspar was like a $17 card. But what Caspar does, okay, so all the Magical Musketeers share the ability that during either player's turn you can activate Magical Musket spells and trap cards from your hand. But then they kind of have like a Mech Knight component to where if a spell or trap card is activated in their column, a certain effect fires off. So what Caspar does is if a spell or trap card is activated in this card's column, you can add 1 Magical Musket card from your deck to your hand, but not a card with the same name as the activated card. So he's really good because he can literally search any, even monster or spell and trap from your hand, anything that you need for that moment, he can grab it. But as long as you don't activate a last stand, you can't search out a last stand. It does have to be something with a different name, which is the only restriction on it, and honestly you can really work around that. This is a really good card, and that is a once per turn. So Caspar searches. What Starfire does is Starfire special summons from the deck. So same thing, you activate spells and traps from your hand, Magical Musket spells and traps. If a spell and trap card is activated in this card's column, you special summon 1 level 4 or lower Magical Musket monster from your deck in defense position, and also once per turn. So a lot of times when you open with Starfire, you're going to use Starfire and then special summon Caspar from your hand, from your deck, if you didn't already open up with a Caspar. A lot of times you really want both of them on the field, opening up as quickly as you can. I'm also playing triple Kid Brave. I don't remember if I played 3 of this last time, but I'm definitely playing 3 of it now. This is kind of the built-in draw power of the deck. What Kid Brave does is if a spell or trap card is activated in his column, you can discard 1 Magical Musket card, and then you draw 2, which can really help with some break your hands. It doesn't happen too often, but it is nice to be able to go into Kid Brave if you need to, and kind of unbreak your hand a little bit. I'm also running 1 Wild. What Wild does is if a spell and trap card is activated in this card's column, you can target 3 Magical Musket cards in your graveyard, shuffle them back into the deck, and then you draw 1 card. I'm running 1 Calamity. If a spell and trap card is activated in this card's column, you can target a Magical Musket monster in your graveyard and special summon it. So that is really helpful because you can set up your graveyard summon as well. And I'm also playing a Doc. What he does is if a spell or trap card is activated in his column, you can add a Magical Musket card from your graveyard back to your hand, but not a card with the same name as the activated card, which is the only restriction on that. And then lastly, I'm playing 1 Mastermind Zakiel, or however you say it. I've gotten a lot of heat for even playing him before, but honestly I don't really care. I really like him. So what he does is you can tribute some of this card by attributing 1 Magical Musket monster, and then same thing during the player's turn, activate Magical Musket spells and traps from your hand. And then once per turn during your opponent's end phase, you can draw cards equal to the number of Magical Musket spells and traps you activated during this turn, while this card's face up on your field. Which a lot of times, like I've done like 4, like you can, and then you can just draw 4 off of that. So like that is really helpful. If you don't want to play him, you don't have to play him. Like he's literally preference. Like he's not at all like you have to play this to play this deck. I just prefer playing him, and he's a big body. And if you use like the card that doubles his attack, he becomes a 5,000 attack beat stick. It's easy to get out in the field, and it gives you some draw power. So I like him, but to each their own. If you want to run this, you don't have to. For the hand traps, I'm running triple Ash because adding Ash into this deck is just stupid. Because everything else is already disruption. That we'll get into that in a minute. But Ash is really versatile, and it's just great. I'm also running triple Effect Veiler because double Effect Veiler. Effect Veiler is really good if you'd rather play something else like Ghost Ogre. You could do that, but Effect Veiler is one of my hand traps for choice. And then I'm also running double Phantasme, which you don't really see this played as much anymore, but I really like Phantasme because Link summoning is like, you see it a ton nowadays. You don't see it all the time, but you could silence in if you wanted to, but I've been using Phantasme, and I really like him because he helps you dig deeper into your deck and just, kind of pull some potential disruptions as well. Again, if you'd rather run different hand traps or something, that's totally fine. It's completely up to you. But this is what I've been going with, and I've really been enjoying it. Alright, so that's it for the monsters. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, running triple cross domination, or as I say, cross dom. This one is super powerful. It's a quick play spell, which, like everything in this deck's a quick play, basically, right? That doesn't really matter. You're probably going to activate from your hand anyway. But if you control a magical musket monster, which you will, you target a face-up monster on the field until the end of this turn. It's changed its attack and defense to 0, and also it has its effects negated. You can only activate one cross dom once per turn. This is really, really good. It's basically a lost win, and just being able to negate the effects of a really problematic monster is awesome. And then on top of that, its attack and defense becomes 0. You can just beat over it. So that is really helpful, being able to play this card from your hand and kind of stop the effects of a monster that would, kind of extend plays, or something that's you can kind of choke point that. And this is a really good card for that. I'm running double steady hands. I was playing this at 1, and there was multiple times I found myself wishing I had run 2. So I bumped it up to 2. What Steady Hand does is you can target a magical musket monster you control, and its attack and defense become double its original attack and defense until the end of the turn. But the only restriction is it can't attack directly during the turn you activate this card, which I guess is fair, because like I said, this is what we can get. Mastermind Ezekiel up to a 5,000 attack beat stick and basically beat over anything. If you'd rather bump this down, that's fine. You could do that. I'm running a Raigeki and a Harpy's Feather Duster. You might laugh at this, but actually, and I did too a little bit to start off with, but I've actually used this like almost every single game. With the Harpy's Feather Duster coming off the ban list, I really wanted to just throw some more disruption in there. And of course, not every deck plays spells and traps, so you could side this if you want. But then also having a spell and trap blow up, and then also a monster blow up on top of everything else you're throwing at your opponent, that can really get frustrating for them. And I'm also running a Twin Twister just to kind of help some more back row, just in case the Harpy's Feather Duster wasn't enough. Again, these are really like, you don't have to play these. It's really versatile what you want to do here. Play what you think is best, but this is what I've been doing. And I'm also running a Monster Reborn as well. So that's it for the spells. Let's get into the traps, because we do play quite a big trap package in this deck. So to start off, I'm running triple Last Stand. Now this one is probably my favorite. It is the built-in counter trap of the deck, and what it does is when your opponent activates a spell or trap card while you control a magical musket monster, negate the activation. If you do, destroy that card. And again, not all decks play like spells and traps, doesn't really revolve around them, but this is a card that can really stop a lot of your opponent's plays that, like, they're starting off with a spell or trap or something like that. Like I was playing against vampires the other day, which, yes, we'll profile that soon, don't worry. And they have Vampire Domination, which is a counter trap that can literally omnigate. And I was able to stop it with this in my hand. Literally having it in my hand, my opponent didn't even see it on the board. Them activating, I'm able to just play that from my hand and be able to stop that. That's what makes it so powerful, because they don't really know what's in your hand either. So if you don't want to play this, you don't have to play this. That's fine. You can bump it down if you want to, make some more room for sort of hand traps or something like that. But I love Last Stand. And I really like it at 3. I'm also running triple Desperado. I don't think there's ever been a game where I haven't gone through all 3 Desperados, like ever. What Desperado does is if you control a magical musket monster, you target one face-up card on the field and you destroy it. And that's literally all it does. Hard once per turn, but super effective, especially like playing against like something like Zombie World. You can pop that Zombie World, stop like Baylor Drop from coming back and hit the field or something like that. This is a really powerful card. I'm also running one Dancing Needle. I almost bumped Dancing Needle up to 2 because it's really good. So what it does is if you control a magical musket monster, you target up to 3 cards in the graveyards and banish them. And, unless you're playing like a magical musket like Thunder Dragon hybrid, probably you're going to be banishing your opponent's stuff. But it is really, really helpful because just kind of getting rid of some of those resources or key cards that that they need in their graveyard, and kind of just getting rid of them so they don't have to worry about that anymore. That is helpful. But a lot of times I bump Dancing Needle down because sometimes you'll open with this card And if you're going first, this isn't something you want to open because you can't really play it because you don't have viable targets in the graveyard, and you want spells and traps you can go ahead and play to fire off your Starfire or Castbar's effect as well. So I bumped it down because of that, and plus it's super searchable, so you take that with a grain of salt. If you'd rather bump it up, you could do that. I'm running one Fiendish Deal. What this one does is magical musket monsters you control cannot be destroyed by card effects, so it gives them some protection. And then if this card in your possession is sent in the graveyard by opponent's card effect, you can add any magical musket card from your deck to your hand except another copy of this card. And then I'm also running Crooked Crown. Crooked Crown gives you an extra summon. You can only control one Crooked Crown during your main phase. You special summon a magical musket monster from your hand, and if you do that, your opponent's main monster zone and that monster's current column is unused. That zone cannot be used until the end of this turn, which I guess that's cool. And then lastly, just to throw in some more disruption, playing triple impermanence. Just adding this on top of everything else it's an absolute headache for your opponent. And again, like I always say, I know this is an expensive card, and if you don't have access to it, that's totally fine. You don't have to play this in this deck. You could definitely make room for more hand traps. You can throw in some like gammas, something like that if you wanted to do that, because they're way less expensive. So anyways, that is it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. Extra deck is very link heavy. We're playing triple Max. Max is one of the best link 1 monsters I've ever seen. All he requires is a level 8 or lower magical musket monster. If this card's linked summon, you activate one of 2 effects. You add magical musket spells and traps with different names from your deck to your hand up to the number of monsters your opponent controls, right? So that's really cool because like we were playing the other day and I think I grabbed up to 4. Because if your opponent, it really punishes your opponent for them having a full board either way. So if your opponent has a big board of monsters, you can grab a ton of disruption from your deck. And if your opponent has a lot of back row, this card can use special summon magical musket monsters with different names from your deck up to the number of spells and traps your opponent controls, which is also super powerful, being able to special summon Starfire and Castbar and even Mastermind Zaguel as well, straight from the deck. That is really powerful. And you can only use this once per turn, and then he also has the ability that during the player's turn you can activate magical musket spells and traps from your hand. He's a really key card in this deck, and I do recommend you playing him at 3. I'm also running an IP as well as the Nightmare package, is Cerberus, Phoenix, and Unicorn. It's just super helpful in this deck. Unicorn definitely saved me when I was playing against my buddy Steve the other day. I'm running a Boral Sword Dragon, a Boral Load Dragon, an Avermax, an Apollosa, and an Access Code. This is a very big Link 4 package, and if you don't want to run this, you don't have to, but Access Code saved me a ton. Like, these all basically have, and you can go into them pretty easily in this deck as well. And then I'm also running an Evil Swarm Exotonite, an Abyss Dweller, and a Digesto Emerald, just in case you don't get an ideal hand and you just need a little bit of something, you know. But the extra deck is extremely flexible. You literally only need 3 of these, and then the rest is really up to you. I mean, it's up to you anyway, but I do recommend you play 3 max. So yeah, guys, that is it for the deck profile. I really hope you enjoyed this. I absolutely love this deck. This is one of my favorite decks to play with. It's just really unique because, like I said, like your opponent having to really worry about what's in your hand, it's super powerful, and just all the searchable disruption that's built into the deck. Not even talking about adding the Imperm and the Ash and the Veilers and the Phantasmes or the Ghost Ogres or whatever else you want to add. It's just a really disruptive deck, and it can really give your opponent a headache, and it can win games because your opponent is not able to fire off their combos because you're constantly throwing things in them left and right. But yeah, guys, that is it for the deck profile. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're here and you haven't already done so, go ahead and subscribe. I absolutely love that. Hit the bell so you become a part of the notification team, so you don't miss anything that goes on this channel. And if I haven't already done it by the time I upload this video, I'm going to be doing a Discord server. I'm getting a lot of requests for that, and I decided to do that because you guys want me to do it, so hey, why not? And then also, lastly, if you watch this video and you liked it, give it a thumbs up. I would absolutely love that. It allows my videos to circulate around YouTube a little bit more, and me being a very small YouTuber, I greatly appreciate that. So thanks for watching, guys, and as always, I'll see you in the next video.